Hi, this is Professor Schwarzenegger and welcome to another session on how to use Excel. In today's lesson we're going to learn how to use a Vlookup function, and we're also going to start to work with some tables. A Vlookup function is one of the more versatile and powerful tools in Excel. It's used commonly to convert one piece of information into another, and we'll see how that works. And tables are useful for analyzing large amounts of data. And we'll begin that today, and I'll have a follow-up lesson on to really see how we can use tables. So how do we use Vlookup, or how can we use it? Let's take a look at an example here. We have a transcript from a student named Jimmy Dean who's spent several semesters at SUNY Cobleskill taking some courses here. And he's kept these courses in an Excel workbook, and he wants to use this to calculate his GPA. So in fact here we have the results of his academic career here at Cobleskill. Now we all know that we receive letter grades when an instructor gives us a grade for the course, yet we need to have a GPA calculated on a 4-point basis. So how do we do that? Well, we use what's called a Vlookup function. So let's practice that and then apply it to this gradebook. So I've got another worksheet here called Gradebook, and this shows you how we calculate grades or at SUNY Cobleskill. And if you achieve a letter grade of A for a course, you will be assigned a GPA of 4.0 based upon the 4-point system. Now, conversely, if you look at the academic policies, which you can find at SUNY Cobleskill's website, if you get anything more than the 92.1 or 92.1 or higher based upon a 100-point system, it's the same thing as getting an A. So, the instructor assigns us a letter grade. The registrar takes a look at that, puts it in the system. The system actually calculates a numeric grade based upon the 4-point system. So let's see how that works. You see I've got a column of letter grades here, and we're going to use a Vlookup function which will convert this letter grade into a numeric grade and place the results right next door. Okay? So you begin by clicking in the cell where you want the results, clicking Insert Function, and you can see that I have Vlookup readily available, and that's because it's been used several times. Excel keeps a list of the 10 most recently used functions, and Vlookup happens to be one of them. In this particular instance, if it didn't appear, you would type in Vlookup, or you can even type in Lookup, L-O-O-K-U-P, and go ahead and click on Go, and you can see that Excel comes back with something, with some matches. You got Lookup, you've got Vlookup, you've got HLOOKUP, so it'll find it, and once we find the one we want, we just click on it and click OK, and that brings us a dialog box which explains the function. So let's take a few moments to take a look at this. Every time you click an Insert Function and select a function, you will be presented with a dialog box that looks something like this. And the dialog box names the function. It gives an explanation of how the function might be used. You can get some help on this particular function down here. If you click on Help, it'll go out to the web, and you can actually see there's some videos that you can find on Vlookup. It'll actually give you some information on how to use it and what's required, and in fact it's a pretty useful tool, and actually give you some examples on how to use it, and you can comment that. So very useful tool. I do want to draw your attention to the fact that we've got parameters or values that we need to provide in these text boxes, and these are usually cell references, and some of these are bold and others are not bold. Anything that is in bold letters is a required piece of information. So Excel wants you to supply what value you're going to look up. Now you could type in an actual letter like A, B, C, and then finish this out, but in fact it's more powerful if we use a cell reference. So that way we can fill the formulas down, copy them, whatever. So the value we want to look up is found in this cell over here, so I'll click in that cell. And you can see that cell is H4, and it says in H4 I found the letter A, which is good. That's exactly what's there. The next thing you have to tell Excel is to where am I going to look for the information you're asking. In this case, you can type something in, but I prefer to use this little icon here, which allows me to point and click and navigate to different worksheets. So I can point and click, and I'm going to highlight this entire table. You can see I've got the entire table, which gives us the letter grade, the associated 4-point grade, and then 100-point grade, and also some descriptions. So that's the area that I want. I can go back and click on that so I can bring my function back. And then the column index, Excel is asking me for which column contains the information you want to return or convert it to. So in this case we want to convert it from a letter grade to a number grade based upon the 4-point system. And our columns are numbered from left to right, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in fact the information we're seeking is found in column 2. Column 1 always has to have the information you're looking up. Okay? So we're looking for we're asking Excel to bring us back information from column 2. And what's going to happen is Excel is going to go through this table and looking up, and if it doesn't find, for example, what if this were a B in here? Well, Excel would start at the top, go through down here until it found the letter B, and then would return the information right across from B in the second column. So that's how a lookup works. And then this range lookup means do you want to look for an exact match? And you can say yes, I do want to look for an exact match, or no, I just want to look for the closest match. And so in fact if you want to look for an exact match, you would have to type in the words false here, F-A-L-S-E. Okay, and you can see that says that's false. Or you can type in true, T-R-U-E, or you can leave it blank, in which Excel assumes that you're using true. And there's some ramifications if you don't leave it blank, if you leave it blank or put in true, because it talks about this sorted in ascending order. And we'll see what happens if we don't take care and pay attention here. So here we go, click OK, and you can see we've got the letter grade of A, and it returns back a numeric grade of 4.0 or 4. And if I've done my work correctly, I can take this and fill this formula down, and everything should be great. And in fact, you see that that's not the case. So what actually happened here? Well, rest assured you're going to be making mistakes, and things that you thought should work don't work, and you have to become now a detective and figure out what's going on. And the best way is to take a look at your formula, original one, and see how it's being copied down. So let's take a look at the first one. Click in our formula box and see that in this blue area that's looking up the blue value, right, looking up the letter A, and the red area is saying it's going to look in this highlighted red area for the results. So that's what we want to have happen. So that's good. Let's take a look at what happens further down here. Let's take a look at this NA down here. And again, we'll click in this blue box in the formula bar, I'm sorry, and we can see we get the letter A minus it's looking for, which is what we want. And now the results are looking in this red shaded area, which is not what we want. We wanted it to stay up in this area. So in fact, if you recall, with absolute addressing, things would stay where we wanted them or be anchored where we wanted them. And then with relative addressing, the formula would move, and that's exactly what's happening. It's looking at the relative address of this table. So that's what we have to fix. So how do we fix that? We go back into our first formula, click on the insert function, get the function key. And what really has to happen here, we need to put absolute references on that. So $C, $3, $F, $17. So that's an absolute address. And what that means is when we fill the formula down, it will stay in this, which is exactly what we want. So we'll click OK. And now when we fill the formula down, we get rid of the NAs. But things are still not working exactly as we had anticipated. For example, the B minus and the B plus are both returning 2.67, and only one of those are right. B minus is 2.67, B plus should be 3.33. The same thing happens with the C plus and the C minus. So what's happening here? Well, let's go back to my original Vlookup function. So we're going to press on that, and notice that before when I said if you're looking for an exact match, you need to put in false, but in this case you don't need to put in false. You can leave it blank or leave true. But the point is, what I forgot to mention, or I didn't mention or hinted at, the first column has to be sorted in ascending order. Let me repeat that. If you use true or don't put anything in here, the first column of your lookup table array needs to be sorted in ascending order. I didn't do that. So let's go back and fix that problem. That means this table needs to be sorted by this first column in ascending order. So what I'll do is highlight everything, including the the labels, what we call the header. Click on data. Notice that I get a sort option, and I'll click on sort, and I now can sort on the letter grade by ascending order A to Z. Click OK. And before I click OK, I want you to take a look at what happens here. Notice that's A minus, B plus, B minus, so forth. Click on OK, and it rearranges this table. It says, okay, according to my calculation, A comes first, A minus comes next, then comes B, not B plus, then comes B minus, and then comes B plus. That's the real ascending order, and that's because Excel converts these letters into what we call ASCII characters, and then it sorts it. You don't need to worry about it, just trust Excel, sort this by ascending order, and once you do that, you notice that I've got the correct results here. B minus gives me a 2.67, B plus gives me a 3.33, C gives me a 2, C plus gives me a 2.33, C minus gives me a 1.67. So everything is working exactly as it's supposed to. So there you go. Two important things to remember when you use the Vlookup function. Always use the dollar signs around the table array. That locks it, makes sure you're always going back to the same area to look up your values. And the next thing to remember, it's always a good thing to sort your table by the first column in ascending order, especially if you're using true or leaving it blank. If you're using if you don't want to run into that problem, use false. Okay, but there are times when you want to get a closest match, especially when you're working with numeric values. Okay, so there we go. Sort by the first column, use dollar signs around the table array references. So let's go help Jimmy out and see what we can come up with. So we're going to use that same Vlookup function to calculate the numeric grade for Jimmy's courses. So equals Vlookup, and once we start typing it in, we just double click that, and we've got the dialog box, right? So we're going to look up value. What value we're going to look up? Well, we're going to look up the grade right next in the same row. Where's my table array? Well, my table array is on a different worksheet. So again, I click on that, I can navigate to my different worksheet. I will now highlight the array, and because I need to I know right now that I need to put the dollar signs there, I'll press my F4 key, and you notice that I get $C, $3, $F, $17, exactly what I need. Go back and click this little icon here. Continue with finishing out. I know I need column 2, and I have already sorted it, so I can leave this blank, and I click OK. And A minus is a 3.67. And since everything should be good, I'll just fill this formula down, and we've got everything correct. Again, B minus is a 2.67 to B plus 2.33, C plus 2. B plus 3.33, C plus 2.33, then A minus 3.67, C minus 1.67. Everything is working precisely as I want it. So great, we're halfway home. The next thing, oh, by the way, I need to make sure, I like the bars here, and I want to make sure when I fill this, I fill it without formatting. That keeps my formats the same. So you see how I get these nice blue and white bars. So the next thing we need to do is calculate the quality points. What are quality points, you might ask? Well, quality points are a way to normalize the effect of the number of credits in a course and how they impact the GPA in the calculations. So for example, if you have a B in a 3-credit course and an A in a 1-credit course, the average would not be just averaging a B and an A, because the 3-credit course is worth much more than a 1-credit course. So we use quality points to normalize that behavior. So what is a quality point? Well, a quality point is nothing other than multiplying the numeric grade that you received in a course times the number of credits assigned to that course. So for example, in this Drawing 1 class, the quality points would be equal to the numeric grade times the number of credits, or 11.01. So once we've got that, we can fill this information down, and we've got the quality points. Now again, I want to fill without formatting, but I also want to make sure that this column appears the same way as the column to the left, the numeric grade. So I'll highlight that, go to my Format Painter, which is over here, click on that, and you can see I've got the formatted data. Looks nice. So there you have it. We now have all the information we need to calculate Jimmy's GPA. So what do we have to do to actually calculate Jimmy's GPA? Well, we have to sum up the quality points, we have to sum up the credit hours, and then we have to divide the quality points by the credit hours. In order to make this a little bit easier, we're going to convert this information into a table. And the idea behind the table is we've got a column heading which describes the information found in that column. So in fact, in this particular column labeled subject, all the information describes the different types of courses. The actual information under the course describes the actual course number, and the title, the name of the course. Grade is obviously the grade the person received in that course, and so forth and so on. So how do we create a table? We click anywhere inside of that, click Insert, and we see we can have this option. It says Insert a Table. We'll click OK. And let me just move this up here and take a look at this. So what Excel has done is put a marquee around the area it thinks is a table. And notice that it puts a dollar sign in front of that. $B, $2, colon, all the way down to $H, $22. So it's these cells inclusive. It also puts a check mark in this box that says My Table Has Headers. And this is exactly what it means. So the idea behind headers is all the information found in the column beneath that header is going to be of the same type. It's important when we create our own tables. And in most cases this is correct. Sometimes though you might run into where Excel looked at the data and came up with wrong headers, and then you can adjust and make some corrections, and you may have sometimes to adjust these the table range, if you will. Click OK, and you now see we have a table. It's got some lines. It puts these auto filters in here. If you want to go, and by the way, it's also giving it a name to this table called Table 2, and we can call it Jimmy I've called it Jimmy's transcript, and you can't put any spaces in the name. And so there I have it. Just to show you what happens, I'm going to click down here, and then I'll go into here. You see Jimmy's transcript appears in the name box, and if I go there, it's highlighted all the data. So again, what Excel has done is create a named range called Jimmy's transcript, which extends from here down to here. Notice it does not include the header row, but that's okay. What's nice about this is now if we go to table design, we can see we can do some different things here. You can see that the header row is checked off. If I uncheck the header row, it disappears. If I check it back, it comes back. Notice it does format a little bit differently. It gives me banded rows. If I uncheck the banded rows, it may or may not do that. I can do some bolding the first column. See how that gets bolded, or I can bold the last column. See how that's bolded. There's lots of things to do, or we can take the filter buttons off, which is fine. Filter buttons are useful because we can actually sort alphabetically, sort A to Z, and we've got that. Keeps all the other information the same, or we can not. I'm just going to undo it. But what's nice about this, I can click on the total row, and you notice that if I click on the total row, it puts a row at the bottom, puts total underneath the first column, and by default it's taking that last column and calculated the sum, which is what I actually want. We can do the average if we want, and you can see the average is 4.33 in quality points, which is not very good. It's a little bit better than a C, and we'll see that works. We'll see how that works out. We can count the number of courses that he's taken. Lots of different things, but we're going to stick with sum. We can take a look, and we're going to sum the credit hours, so we can take the sum of the credit hours. We could look for the maximum grade that Jimmy's gotten, and we see the maximum grade was an A, which he received over here for C to 110. And we can take a look at the minimum grade, which is a 0 or a couple of F's that it received for biology and wildlife. So great to have this total row. So now we've got everything we need to calculate the GPA, and we're going to place the results in this cell. So GPA equals, and how do we do the formula? Once again, it's equal to the sum of the quality points, the total quality points, divided by sum of the total credit hours, and there we have it. And we can see that Jimmy's GPA is 2.06, barely above a C. So there you have it. We've now shown you how to use the Vlookup function and to create a table to organize some data and bring some statistical analysis to the ball game, if you will. So thanks for watching, and I hope this was helpful. Stay tuned. Our next lesson will be on tables and pivot tables. All right. Thank you.